Good afternoon. Welcome to Cotswold Fireworks and a demonstration of the FireTEK firing module. And we have the basic FireTEK 48E module, which is here connected to a 12-volt lead-acid battery for power and 4 rails to fill all the slots. Each rail has 6 bulbs simulating 6 igniters, so in total 24 firings. And one way of firing this is obviously power the system on. It's been pre-programmed with a script. The script will fire each igniter on each rail with a 0.2 second delay for rail 1. It'll wait a second and then it'll do rail 2, wait a second, do rail 3, wait a second, do rail 4. We powered the system on, the self-test is okay, and the screen shows that a program exists. This particular module has an ID of 1, but in this particular display we only have one module, so any ID between 1 and 99 will work. It's absolutely fine. Self-test is okay, so we press the green button on the front, which is just there, and takes it out of self-test mode and shows us that the first 6 ports on every rail, 1, 2, 3 and 4, are all connected with igniters, or in this case bulbs, and it's in idle mode. In that case it's not armed. Now if you're in the middle of the show and you've set up and you haven't brought anything else along, you can just with this box fire off the display. As I said, it's going to do 0.2 of a second to be behind the bulbs, so just press and hold the green button for 3 seconds and that will arm the module, and the module now comes up with armed on the display. And if you're ready to fire, you can just press the green button again and it will go through its script as shown. 1 second delay between the rails. And when it's finished the script, the box will go back into disarm mode and you can turn it off, clear up the display and disappear. What you can also do, which is something that we do, is trigger fire. My first boxes when we set up our company were just trigger with a piece of bell wire. Every time you press the trigger button, the next port on the box would fire. Likewise, that's really straightforward to do. Well, you can do that with the FireTEK, which is one of the reasons why we purchased it. So if we just press the green and rearm the system, after 3 seconds it's armed. Now before you press the green button again, which will go into the script and fire all those ports at 0.2 seconds of an interval, if you press the blue button once, it will go into step mode, and it tells you on the screen it's now in step mode, and it has a script with 24. What that's telling you is there are 24 firings currently in the script, and this will count down every time you press the trigger button. Now we don't have a trigger cable as such connected to the system, so our trigger button is the green button. Every time you press the green button, it will fire the next port in the script. So this first port should be 1, and the script was initially firing every 0.2 of a second, so it would go 0, 0, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8 and 1 second. So we'll just do that and we press the first button and fires the first port. It won't fire the next one until you press the button again, but what it also won't do is it won't add the delay into the igniter beforehand. So when you press the button, it will fire the igniter exactly there. It's no delay, so hit the button and there it goes. There's no 0.2 second delay, and every time you press it, it will just fire the next igniter that's listed in the script. In this mode, it is actually ignoring the delays between all the igniters because you just want step mode. What it's listening to, or what it's watching in the script, is the order of those ports, because you can fire these ports in any order you wish. So every time you press a button, it is firing the next port as listed in time order in the script, but it's ignoring the delays between all those igniters because we just want to do step fire. And if I fire the last one off rather rapidly, there we go. And once the script is finished, it disarms and the module is back to idle mode. Pretty straightforward. Now the problem with this is I'm in the middle of the display and I'm covered in bits of dust and debris, and it's not a safe place to be. So what you really want to use is this module with a trigger cable, and we have an electronic trigger port at the back. So I'll just get the trigger. Teach me for not having my tools at hand. Here we go. This is just a 12-volt battery box with a button on the top and a couple of pyro clips just to connect the wire. And the other end of the wire goes into the trigger port as such. Now we'll power the box off, because what you have to do is tell the module that you're going to use a trigger wire and you're not using the buttons on the front to actually fire the show. So first of all, turn the module on. This will only work as well if the module has a script installed. If there is no script in the module, you cannot use a trigger box to fire the ports. The other thing to note is that a column in the script is a sequence column. In this case, every port that we are firing is in sequence column, or should we say is in sequence 0. You can use sequence 0 and at the moment sequence 1, and the script will work as expected. So we have all the ports listed with their time delays in a sequence of 0. Just power the device on, wait for the test to finish, wait for the module to come up in test mode is OK, self-test OK. Now press the trigger button, and the box has now registered the fact the trigger has been fired, and next to the non-existent wireless signal we now have ET, electronic trigger. You can now complete the box to say yes, I'm happy, the test is OK. Box is OK, it's told us what the igniters are. We can now arm the box. So green button, 3 seconds, will arm the module. The module is armed. It's now waiting for the trigger button to be pressed to initiate the script. In this case the script is going to be 0.2 of a second on the bulbs, 1 second delay between all the rails. So if we just hit the trigger button, in case that's out of camera, put it back in. Trigger button, 1 press, and the script begins to fire. And that's complete. Done. Let's just arm it again. We can just rearm because we're just running bulbs. Here we go, we're armed. We're still in trigger mode. If I press the button, it will start firing. If I press the button again, it will pause, and it does say pause on the screen. So if you do have problems in the display and you want to stop your script, you can just press the trigger button and it will pause the show at that point. Let's restart. Let's carry on where we left off, and I'll pause it there. So we're now actually paused between rails 2 and 3. It will still use the delay that's in the script, so there's still a bit of a second left. So if we replay or carry on playing, and it finishes the script. Lovely. Now while we're using the trigger, you can also use it in step mode. So if we rearm the box, and before you press the trigger to start playing your script, you press the blue button once, and that puts it into step mode. We're showing a script of 24 firings. Every time you press the button on the trigger, the next port in the script will fire. And that's step mode. It doesn't have to be one port. If you configure 4 ports to fire at the same time in the script, when you press the trigger button, those 4 ports will fire together. This is just using one sequence. The beauty of this box is that you can program multiple sequences into the system. So we could have each rail being a different sequence. What you can then do is every time you press the trigger, sequence 1 will fire with the time delays and complete. When you press the trigger again, sequence 2 will start and fire and complete. And again, and sequence 3 will fire, and if you press the trigger again, sequence 4 will fire. In fact, the box can fire the sequences concurrently. So if you were to say that these 12 firings in this rail, if we were using all the rail ports, were firing every 20 seconds, when you press the trigger, the sequence will start, and every 20 seconds a port will fire. But your next rail might be firing something different in a different area of the display and a lot faster. If you press the trigger again, it won't pause the first sequence, it will start the next sequence to fire. And the processor in a box is capable of handling 255 sequences concurrently. it's pretty pointless. You've only got 48 ports on the box, so worst case scenarios you're going to have maximum 48 sequences, but that's just 1 port per sequence. Hardly worth doing like that. But you might have 4 or 5 sequences. So the next demo we'll do will show sequences working within the system. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you.